Today, what I tried to do in preparing for this session is look at kind of categorize and look at all the areas where people tend to falter. Emotions are such a huge one. This is where we need to provide extra support and ideas for people. Education, this is one I think we're very comfortable with. We have a large group of people that really still have lack of food knowledge. They maybe have disordered eating, or we can help guide them more on timing. Mindset is crucial. Weight loss is a long-term journey. It's something that we need to pay attention to all the time, really. So helping them focus and providing guidance there. And then we will talk about some more areas of dysfunction for some different health conditions. I know we jumped into some of that last week too. So I'll refresh on that as well. So before we get too far into this, I think this is something we all need to hear. And I was preparing, and I had just some really difficult patients this past week or two. And I hope well, I don't hope, but I'm sure you've all experienced these before, the ones that are just, they take, and you feel exhausted after working with them. So here are some things that I coach myself on because I work with a lot of these types of patients, and I think they're important reminders. So listening more than talking, I think that's really helpful so that they're able to express themselves. Most people don't get enough time to talk about themselves or work things out, and you might be a good resource for that. Empathizing, but not taking on their energy. This is one that I can be really guilty of. I think we don't think about this enough, but creating an inviting environment. Weight loss can come with a lot of fear, a lot of shame, a lot of guilt. And the more we can help them feel comfortable and invited, I think the further they'll get in their journey. Setting those boundaries and expectations up front. The hard part with weight loss, like we cannot guarantee weight loss. Just like the person setting the goals, if their goal is I'm going to lose 10 pounds, that could be something that is not attainable at the moment. They could be doing all the steps, all the things right, and for whatever reason we have to uncover more dysfunction. So what I think, changing those expectations to I will eat XYZ, I will exercise this much, really helping them understand and putting it back on them. And when they have successes, they'll be so grateful or thankful. And I always push it back and say, it's you that did the work. So creating that sort of like the right boundaries, I think is really important. I've seen many providers create more of like a friend relationship. So this is different than that inviting environment. We need to still offer direct, clear communication and not create that friend relationship, because it's too easy then to lose that accountability piece. So that's really important. Give tools, but don't do the work for them. I mean, there are some patients I've rooted for them so much, I would almost have gone to their house and made the food for them. But we are not there to do the work that will long-term not help them. So giving them those tools, but not doing it for them. I think this one's important, especially if you see a lot of patients, recognizing fatigue and burnout, not being so hard on yourself. Do not attach to the outcome of the patient. Give it your all in the session, but it is ultimately up to them and the right timing and all the right circumstances in order for them to have success in that way. And then another favorite of mine is meeting the patient where they're at. We have these beautiful meal plans and menus and all these things that will help them get there, but that might be so overwhelming to them. Meeting them where they're at is really crucial, and it might be a tiny baby step, and they're really happy and excited about it. It might not be exactly what we were looking for. Okay, so let's move on here. So I don't know if you've utilized this at all. It used to be called Optimize, and now it's called Heroic. I always trying to find ways to get all the information I can in the least amount of time. So it's a site, and I'm including some of this in your resources, but they're books, and it's like a 2-page summary and all the most important things from the books. So this is one of them. It's called Awaken Your Strongest Self. And we only get so much time with a patient. So I feel like we have to keep giving them resources and things that we can remind them every single time, but we have to be able to give resources so they can do that work on their own. One of the big things I see is deprivation, feelings of deprivation, and then self-sabotage. So something easy, the first step would be, okay, let's find an alternative. We're not going to have the chocolate cake anymore. Can we add some, cacao powder to cottage cheese or something to get that chocolatey flavor? There's so many ways to help them come up with ideas. Digging deeper as to why they're sabotaging themselves. I'll get into that with this, the Awaken Your Strongest Self. Building up their confidence. This comes back to like Atomic Habits, if you've heard of that book. It's such a small step. Every small step will help build their confidence. So when we come in and throw this beautiful meal plan at them that's so overwhelming, that's not going to build up their confidence. What's one small step they can take along the way? And then we always have to bring this back. Do they have the basics in place? And sometimes it's easy to forget, or it might change over time and you don't ask them every time. Are they sleeping? Are they drinking water? Are they managing their stress? Has something different, something changed, a new job, moving? Are they getting movement? Are they getting outside? All of those things will really have a huge effect on their emotions. So I really like these 5 qualities from this book. Safety within themselves. I can tell a patient gets it when it clicks to them that they now feel good in their own body. They feel safe. I can't tell you how many people feel really uncomfortable, and you can use that word unsafe within their own body. So helping bring them awareness, first of all, and then closer to that. This is where it gets really frustrating for people. So they choose actions that are not incongruent with their higher values. So they want themselves to be that healthier version, but they're not choosing those actions. So there's trying to get them a little bit closer, finding an action that meets their higher values. Staying present in the moment rather than looking back, looking forward. I can't tell you how much stress comes from patients on, oh, I have all these holiday things coming up. So they've created stress and they're stressing. I can't tell you how many hours more than just that actual event. So helping them really just ground and stay focused where they are. And connection. Most people feel like they're struggling alone. They don't want to share these sort of fears with other people. Maybe they do share it with you. But I think taking that a step further and letting them know they are not alone. So many people struggle in the exact same way, and even encouraging them to open up to others, because it might help others open up and have a bigger connection with them as well. So I think these things are really important. The other big things around emotion that I see, and I can be guilty of as well, is soothing with food. So stress eating. I looked up a bunch of resources. There's at the bottom right, this positive psychology. I looked up and found some really nice techniques. Something is going to work different. We need different things for different people, and you might need something different each time you're experiencing stress. So having them go within, say, what do I need right now, is going to be the best way to help them create some awareness on what could help. So aromatherapy, music, imagery, warmth. So being by a fire, I know that always makes me feel really good. You can do that focused breathing, getting some movement, even just gentle hand massage can be really helpful. And then in the positive psychology, they have a couple different actual short videos that you could send to patients on tapping. If you've heard of tapping, it's like this process of like hitting certain points on the body. A butterfly hug is like a grounding practice. And then I encourage you all to try this right now. It's called havening. This was the first time I've seen this, but it's essentially where you're almost just like You're rubbing the back of your arms, and it's just a very like comforting, soothing thing to do. So give it a try. I find so when people identify that they're stressed at night, they're stress eating, they're going for whatever they can grab, maybe it's alcohol. I always encourage them to stop and ask themselves, are they hungry or what type of need are they trying to meet? And I have them try one of these things before they go to the food. And sometimes just that distraction can help, but sometimes they'll meet their need by doing that havening, getting that warmth, maybe talking to a friend. And then another really nice question or awareness tool would be, what gives me energy and what takes my energy? Write them all down for a whole day. What gives me energy? What's taking my energy? And most people will see that their bucket's depleted. Everything just keeps coming out and they're not putting any energy back in. And then I'm sure you have these patients too, but so many people are exhausted and just unaware of it. They think that it's normal to be running at 110% at all times. They're totally fine. These are the people that 10 years down the road end up having, adrenal fatigue sort of issues. So for people that you can tell do not have that connection or awareness, encourage a Fitbit, an Apple Watch, an Aura Ring, so that it actually tracks how much time they're sitting in a stress mode versus the restorative mode. This is a book here, Stress Less, Accomplish More. And I think the people that, are the stressors and work really hard, are nonstop going, will appreciate something like, ooh, I can accomplish more by doing this. And I really like, oh, sorry, I was trying to move my slide or my thing over here so I can see what this says. We meditate to get good at life, not to get good at meditation. So a lot of people get really frustrated with meditation and say they're not good at it. They don't know what they're doing, but it's not the point of getting good at meditation. So I think that's also a really nice reminder. Okay. So this is the piece where I feel like we are pretty good at, but I want to highlight some things here. So does it fit into one of these buckets? Is it access, or like we first need to assess, is it lack of food knowledge? I think it's too easy to take the word of somebody and say, no, I followed it exactly what you told me. Okay. So let's repeat back. Let's have them give a sample. I'd even go as far, if there's disconnect there, like have them download one of their grocery lists if they do online grocery shopping, go through their cupboards, take them to the store. And it's so shocking what people learn and realize when you walk food by food with them and help them understand. Sherry's going to get more into the medication adjustments specifically the first week we come back in January. And it's not, again, you are not telling them go up or down, but maybe give them suggestions to talk with their provider. Maybe you're not on the right dose. You can go up, and these are titratable medications. Maybe you can go up and down. Maybe it's time to take a break. Maybe they need some more supportive supplements or add in more peptides. So that could be a conversation you have. I don't know about you, but weight loss patients, there's so many that have disordered eating. They've created all of these food rules. They have good and bad foods. They're looking back and forward and never in the moment. So I always ask, so what food rules do you have? Do you see food as good and bad? And help them break some of that down too. And when they hear from their dietitian that they can have some of the things that they thought were bad foods, it really can open up their eyes and their awareness and help them see food differently. Another really big thing I see is eating at the wrong times. So when patients come in and they say, oh, I'm just so hungry at night all the time, I'm never hungry during the day. That's an easy one of more food probably needs to be eaten during the day. They're saving all their calories for nighttime, and that's not a good thing. Or it's that need for soothing. It's really not hunger. If they're skipping meals and water, is it that they don't have hunger cues, or are they just so distracted they're not paying attention to it? I have some people that eat so late that they're not hungry all morning and then get busy and then don't eat until late again, and they just get on this bad cycle. And then there's others who are always hungry and always grazing. So then I always look to, is it more of a blood sugar issue, a gut issue, or is it, do we need to train the body to be an actual fat burner instead of that carb burner? So this is something we really get into in strategic weight loss. And that's going to be, I think, the recording for next week. Yeah. So, okay. So, Karen, thank you for sharing this. Some people don't have good hunger cues. So, I am all about intentional eating and really trying to take those hunger cues. Most of our patients that have come to us that have tried diet and exercise, they're way past hunger cues and they don't have that anymore. So, helping them also know that they don't have to just be waiting for a hunger cue. Sometimes we have to get the body back in balance before they're even going to have that. So yeah, great point. Just to bring this up again, people learn differently. Some people need the macros in that meal plan. Some need actual recipes. Some need us talking through, I don't like this, I like this. What can I actually eat, and come up with a custom plan? So taking into account how people learn and what people will utilize is really important as well. Then we get into mindset. So I don't know how many of you have heard of Gretchen Rubin, but she has the four tendencies, and this is accountability personality. So this is this little graphic here. And when I just seem to get stuck with a patient and they're either not listening to me or not listening to themselves, I have them fill out this quiz and they will figure out if they're one upholder, questioner, rebel, obliger. So I'm curious, check it out for yourself if you want to. I'm the rebel. So this is the hardest one. I resist the things I tell myself. I resist what other people tell me. So in the quiz, it also gives some really nice suggestions on how to actually make habits stick if you are one of these four. The questioner and the rebel are the hardest to work with. Like if you're giving them recommendations, they aren't going to resist you. They're going to, come up with every reason it didn't work. So with those people, they have to come up with the idea themselves. So you really have to coach them more. They need to come up with that. On the other hand, that upholder and obliger, they want to follow any recommendation you have. It drives them nuts if you say, what do you think? And you come up with it. They want that accountability from you specifically. So it can be really neat to do this quiz for people that you work with kind of on a long-term basis. So I have this quiz is in the resources for week 3. It is the 4 tendencies by Gretchen Rubin. Okay, so that's one thing. People tend to really like the bookends. So it's starting your day a certain way, ending your day a certain way, creating those habits around starting right, ending right, or getting as close as you can, because that will just set the rest of your day up for success. An easy one, schedule it in, put it on your phone, put a reminder in. If you always miss lunch, if you miss doing a relaxation practice, or you want to deep breathe or get up every hour, put it literally on your calendar. This is for the all or nothing sort of patient. Consistency over perfection. Every little step you take in the right direction is a step in the right direction. It's not about perfection. So helping them understand that and showing them that you don't even expect perfection. Helping them create identity around what they're doing and their actions versus I must do this. This kind of comes back to the accountability personalities. Another one I see is really asking them those hard questions. Have they actually committed? I see what you're doing, but it doesn't look like this is full commitment on your part. Actually having those conversations. I know it's not always comfortable and you have no control over how they respond, but I will tell you, it usually goes in a very positive direction once they come around and realize it for themselves. Some other resources I have are on building resilience and willpower. Sometimes people need to work on that like a muscle, and there are really good resources and books around that as well. Because again, and helping them understand, okay, sure, you can have the willpower, the focus, or the motivation for a month while you lose these couple pounds. How do you stay on track long term? Things will come up, new stressors will be around. What are you going to do to help build that resilience? None of us want to be yo-yo dieting. Here are some really nice questions that I like to use to help them get one step further when I identify there's some disconnect. So asking them, what is it gonna take to get you to the next step? And is it realistic to you? Where is the gap from where you are now and where you want to go? So also showing them, man, is this gap really huge? Or is this gap really small and it's just going to take one more tiny thing? Or is there an elephant in the room that we need to talk about? Uh, what is their confidence level? I like this question a lot too, because sometimes they don't stop and think in this way. Do they think they actually can lose weight? A lot of people will, if they really thought about it and told you, they would say no, or at least I don't think I can keep it off. How do we build that confidence level a little bit more? So it's those small, very small steps. So what is one small step you could take to get to that higher level? I think those are all things that you could utilize. Maybe you are, but these have been really powerful for me anyways. And then when you think about mindset, some other thoughts that I think are important is, what is their body image? How do they feel in their body? What is their happiness, their joy level? There is another quiz on happiness in there, in the resources that I want you to check out as well. And we can't forget about trauma. Trauma can come up and affect in so many ways, whether a person's aware of it or not. Okay. So this is what we talked about. We're going to move now, unless there's any other questions around some of this more soft skill, emotional stuff. I'm going to move into some of the dysfunction pieces again around weight loss. Yeah, that's a good way to put it, Karen. Moving people out of the all or nothing. So many people are that those are the yo-yoers, all or nothing, and switching them into that growth mindset. And there are so many ways people can go with that growth mindset. So just a reminder of what we talked about last week. We talked about the gut issues. Those are really big with the GLPs. So is it more digestible foods? Do we need to add bulk to bulk the stool with fiber? Is it a motility issue, vagus nerve? Are we looking into endocrine dysfunction? Are we looking at muscle mass issues? That's what we talked about last week. Today, I want to spend more time talking about inflammation. So this first slide's inflammation from food. And I don't know about you, but so I get people coming in saying, oh, I've done a food sensitivity test. It didn't help at all. Or no, I stay away from gluten and dairy, without realizing other foods can cause inflammation too. So then I have to walk them through this story, and hopefully this is helpful or a way to talk to patients about this. When someone has leaky gut, mucosal barrier issues, not enough of the good bacteria, it can lead to food intolerances. So it's inflammation in the body every time we eat. What happens is these large particles can get through the gut barrier, and then it causes an immune response. These particles are not supposed to be able to get through. It's causing inflammation. Food sensitivities show up in so many ways and can start 30 minutes after you eat, or it can be 3 days later. So identifying what food it was on your own can be really tricky. And food sensitivities show up in so many ways. Mood issues. A big one I see is water retention and weight fluctuation like crazy. Headaches, sweating, fatigue, anxiety, stuffy nose, more of those irritable bowels, blood pressure dysregulation. So the histamines can throw off blood pressure levels, and then skin issues. So there are so many ways foods can show up. And then over time or susceptibility to each person, this can lead to autoimmune conditions. The immune system is seeing the thyroid cell just the same as this large food particle that gets through and its body starts attacking. So, yes, you can do an elimination diet. They're really tricky. As a dietitian, I find this really tricky. I've tried it. It's not easy to figure out and it's so limited. Do you go on more of an AIP, an autoimmune protocol? That works for some, but it doesn't work for everybody. So then that's where we get to the customization piece, the food sensitivity testing, and the typical, what I feel like is mostly out there and people do is the IgG sort of a test. And if you dig into the research, it is not the most accurate for showing what is actually causing a problem, an inflammatory response in the body. The best way is a cell mediated response. This is the MRT LEAP. This is the LCAT. You know, those types of tests are actually much more predictive of what, or showing what is causing inflammation in the body. Now, when we take away those foods and just incorporate the foods that are the least reactive, I don't tell people to even look at calories during this time. There's 2 weeks of being pretty strict. People are losing weight just by following the low inflammation foods. And people, so this one can be hard. I don't know how many of you utilize this test, but I actually have people that will grieve about certain foods and not being able to have it. But I always share the really cool part is you eventually can have most or all of these foods back. When we reset the immune response to these foods, you can have them back. So the whole idea is not taking foods away in the short term, yes, so that you can then have more down the road. So I really like using food sensitivity testing for weight loss as well. This is another really big one. And this comes to like, it's about screening and knowing the symptoms and maybe doing more testing, but inflammation from toxins. Now, you know, it drives me nuts. There's so much out there. The body is supposed to detox on their own. It doesn't, we don't need to do extra things. Well, if you're not having a bowel movement every day, if you have gallbladder or pancreas issues, you're not going to be detoxifying properly. So it's important, you know, you earn the right to detox is the way I've always learned it. You have to make sure the gut is optimized. You're looking at liver function and making sure that you don't have fatty liver. Lymphatic is moving properly, or you're doing things throughout the day to move the lymphatic. And are your genetics making it more difficult to detoxify? My genetics are horrible for detoxification. I always have to do extra around that, including supplementation to make sure I stay optimized. Some big glaring things that can cause a lot of inflammation is mold from food, mold in the home, heavy metals. If you're not able to detoxify those properly, the amalgam fillings are a really big one there. And then overload of histamines, that is just an inflammatory response. Your body is not working optimally. So many people with gut issues have those histamine issues, and it becomes really hard to lose weight. So the goals for detoxification: daily bowel movements, helping them understand what an actual healthy bowel movement is. Some people are so dysfunctional this way, they don't even know that what they're experiencing is not normal. Add in liver gallbladder support if you see the need. Make sure they're getting movement. They could try body brushing. They could do the sauna. They can do rebounding. There's so many ways to help with that lymphatic and keep things moving through the body. Hydration, castor oil packs, all of those things are really excellent. And don't forget to talk about that restorative state. This is where the Fitbit or the Apple Watch or Aura Ring come in and are really nice at helping someone assess, are they actually in a restorative state or just high stress without realizing it all day long. This one's important with the whole endocrine system. So what I see with people is first, The ongoing daily stress causes high cortisol, constant high cortisol. So what does this do? It causes an increase in appetite. It causes your body to signal storage of fat, and then you become insulin resistant. So that's high cortisol. Those are the people that are just energized and and are doing so much all day long, every single day. And then after a period of time, it becomes low cortisol. Your body is not able to produce enough anymore to mount a response. These are the people that it takes hours to wake up in the morning. Maybe they, have to have 5 cups of coffee in order to get going, but they're the ones that are usually wired at night. This is, when that's the low cortisol, this is when I see the decreased energy levels. So they're not even they're not able to even exercise anymore. They're too tired. They have tons of cravings because their body just wants some quick hit energy, or those hormonal imbalances. So anybody that has, adrenal dysfunction, I look at what their cholesterol level is. I can't tell you how many people have low cholesterol. Low cholesterol is not good either. Anything under 160, and it starts to affect every other area of the body. So then you come down to pregnenolone. That's like that precursor hormone. If you have high stress, it will always go towards cortisol, your adrenals. So then you're going to have less and less hormones produced in the body. So those are all the mechanisms or pieces I look at when someone is more in that adrenal dysfunction or fatigue. I have this in here because I know this was brought up last week. I wanted to include all of the different well-known mutations in the genetic SNPs that can cause issue. And based on the research, it can cause significant issue. Like, it's really hard for some of these people to lose weight. Now, keep in mind the way SNPs work, it's that on and off switch. So there are so many triggers or things that can turn it on or off. It has a lot to do with nutrition. There are a lot of the minerals, the B vitamins that are needed in order to properly create the DNA. Like trauma or stressors or things like that also can turn that switch on and off. So it's not a death sentence, but it's something that might warrant more specific look at these different genetic pieces. All right, so here are some things to think about. How are you presenting this information? I know there's so much to go over when we talk about weight loss, but are you really emphasizing the importance of the mindset, of the emotions, of uncovering not just the body dysfunction, but the emotional dysfunction that goes along with this? So a good way to do this is having them track some of these things, repeating conversations. Sometimes it literally takes 10 times of saying the same thing before they actually hear it. So it's our job to present and talk about these things and show the importance of it. Are you looking at some of these dysfunctional things in your weight loss patients? So hopefully this will provide you some more things that they can actually look at. And then what are your new favorite tools? I'm excited for you to look in Thinkific at the different links that you can share with your patients and the different tools. I suggest you try them all too. It's always great to have those awareness pieces, and people love quizzes. So I find I get a lot of compliance with that. Okay, so Karen's saying she's run some genetics on people, and it is affirming so that they can move forward intelligently. I agree. So some people are so afraid to get genetics done because they don't want to know. But when you help them understand that it isn't that death sentence, there's something you can do about it, and they have that actual data. I agree. It's almost one of those things where they couldn't figure out why it was so difficult for them. And that can be really reassuring. So Abby's asking what tests used for genetics. Karen, what test were you using for these patients? Oh, okay, the 3x4. Okay. Yeah. Karen, do you use it a lot? I'm curious. And do you use it with the blood sugar stuff, or how do you utilize it? Since I know this came up last week. Okay. I've gone through the whole 3x4 training, that really intensive one. There's so much in there. And maybe things have improved. So it's been a year since I've really done a whole lot with it. Okay. Yeah, when there's a big family history, like everybody's been overweight, et cetera, sort of thing. Okay. It's interesting. So when we were getting into the 3x4, now I can't remember what's her name? The main lady's name that would always present on this topic. Oh yeah. Yep. Um, she did a whole segment on the weight management piece, and one of the SNPs, I can't remember which one, it skips a generation. So if there's deprivation, the next generation is going to see it. So there's so much intricacy to all of it, but it's really cool, and I think a full-time job to dig into. Okay, so in summary, I think it goes back to these simple things. Treat each person individually with respect to their obstacles. Someone being aware of how they're motivated can be a huge piece, an eye-opening piece to how to move forward with them. Have a big bag of tricks and even more resources. We have to keep throwing, might have to keep throwing things at them until something sticks. And then figure out how to hold them accountable in a way that is beneficial for them. Okay, so in your resources today, I have some of these books that I had talked about. I have those self-assessments. I have a food sensitivity handout that we use to help people understand a little bit more. And then I have some of our favorite detox supplement recommendations. So I don't know if you guys have a suggestion on this, let me know, but in Practice Better, there's a way to share programs and services and stuff like that. I could not find a way to share a protocol. So, like last week, I just had a snapshot of what the protocol looks like and how to take everything. So, like this one for the detox supplements, I don't have the capability to share that either, unless you guys have an idea. But I listed all the different companies we use and the products that we use for detoxification. And okay. Okay, so Karen's saying if I put it in a program module and I share the program. Oh, okay. I know what you're saying. Let me try doing that for you, because when you all signed up, it was technically a Practice Better program. So I'll try uploading that protocol in Practice Better. Does anybody have questions? I know we have, I think, a little time. Oh yeah, we got time today. Does anybody have any questions? Or want to share their experience or something that they find helpful with these soft skills? Okay. Okay. Um, Karen, if this is from you, do you want to just jump on and talk about it? This patient? See, when there's a gut health, detox, stress, weight loss desire, how do you start? Where do you start? Okay, I tried to ask you to unmute. I don't know if that worked or not. I wonder if the settings are, last time it worked, and I don't know why it's not working, because I can't unmute you either. I can just ask you to unmute. Oh, that's so weird. Oops. Okay, so I'll read it. So let me answer Abby's question first. It is hard because, at with Sherry, we're called Weighless MD. People come there specifically for weight loss. When we have to tell them, I don't think you are going to optimally lose weight until you work on your gut health, until you work on the detoxification, the stress piece. The weight loss is a symptom and it will follow and it will, come in time. Sometimes we can get people to start there. Other times they want to disregard, and we'll say, okay, let's jump in and, start with a GLP or something like that. But I have a feeling we're going to have to come back to these things. Or as they start the GLP at a very low level, we'll start working through some of that. At minimum, I think you need some extra support for detoxification. We have to talk about your stress at every single time. So I always am very upfront that all of these things are affecting their weight, all this dysfunction. And I like to start with the gut. I think everything stems from the gut. Even stress can be a response from the types of gut bacteria we have. So that's my personal approach. Okay. Hopefully that answered the question, Abby. Now I'm going to go back to Karen's. She has a 70-year-old who's active, healthy, delightful, history of food addiction. Okay, so use the bright line eating, A1C of 6, no signs of insulin resistance, low triglycerides, very good but strict diet. Started Adderall. Developed chronic constipation. Oh, BM's only every 3 to 10 days. Started Mounjaro 2 months ago. It's been a miracle for her. Dropped that addictive feeling, the food noise. Yes, it's changed her life. She dropped a little bit of weight. The mental side's the game changer. It is me affirming her choice and saying this was an amazing tool. Yeah. So I know Sherry and I have touched on this in some of the group sessions, but we start at a very, very low dose, typically the 10 milligrams. It's different based on concentration of what the actual units are, but we start the very lowest and they will say it has changed. It flipped the switch. It's changed everything because that mental side of it, I don't care how good you are at the dysfunction piece. If you cannot help coach them through the mental side of weight loss, you will be spinning your wheels and they will fall back always to these things. So finding a way to help them with that. And the GLPs for a lot of people have been that answer. Using those low doses for slim folks with elevated A1C. Yes, weight isn't the only, you will not, taking a GLP will not cause you to lose weight. It's about what you're eating. So you can be GLP deficient and be at a healthy weight. There is gut dysfunction going on for a lot of people. If there's an elevated A1C, there's dysfunction right there, right? So we're trying to bring down that inflammation. We're trying to avoid what's to come. And that's where too many people, they wait until things are so dysfunctional that they have the weight then. And then it's such a backwards, it's much harder. So I think we have now, I'm not saying I would put somebody that's underweight on a GLP, definitely not. Most people that come to us, are there specifically for weight loss, but we have people that have gotten to their like goal weight at a good healthy weight and then stay on a low dose. Do we ever use these to just bump up insulin for people? I know you see people much more specifically for insulin resistance and the CGM and everything. So I can't say that we've specifically done it, but we've seen success with that, just based on like labs and everything. So I think it's a good idea. I actually was in one of the integrative groups on Facebook, and people were talking about a type 1 diabetic on, obviously on insulin, on metformin. Should they get on the GLPs as well? I've seen really good success for type 1s on these GLPs as well. There aren't many people that wouldn't have some sort of benefit if they have any sort of insulin resistance. So that's definitely been our experience. Good questions. Anything else? I really appreciate you being here today. I hope everybody has fun stuff going on for the holidays, not too stressful. All right, if there's nothing else. Oh, one more thing. Okay. I'll wait. I know this is really annoying. It has to be annoying to have to type everything in. I apologize. I don't know how to switch that. Okay, so the positive intelligence quiz. Is this a resource you have? Or are you asking me for the link? Oh, positive intelligence quiz. Do you have the link to it? I'd be curious. I may or may not. And if I don't have it, I will add this to the resources. The way we self-sabotage. Oh, this is great. I don't think I've used this one, or I don't use this regularly. I will add this to our resources though. I think this is excellent. So thank you for sharing that. Okay. Yep, the people pleasing, the victim, the perfectionist. So in what way do you sabotage? This is one of those really nice awareness tools too. It helps you get further. They might get to the awareness of, okay, I keep sabotaging myself every single time, but what do you do about it? How do you take that further? So it's really nice then to be able to identify it and then do something about it. Okay, so Abby has somebody here. It's been on a GLP for about a year, but is having a lot of the food noise return. Oh, so this is what we've talked about before with the receptors being saturated or having, I guess, is this patient on the highest dose, or do you know what the dosing is? So sometimes, switching up the dose, sometimes dosing once only every 10 days. So allowing a couple days for the receptors to clear up could be helpful. Are they on semaglutide or tirzepatide, or do you know which one specifically? I say that because we've had people who started stalling on semaglutide, and we've switched them over to tirzepatide, so Monjaro, and it's been a game changer. So what I would do is recommend that if they can, and I know tirzepatide is harder to get, if they can switch over to that, that would be my first recommendation. We are actually doing a study on the new triple action, the retrutitide, I think is how you say it. We're doing a patient study in January. So that's the triple action, the glucagon like peptide. So we'll keep you posted on how that goes as well. But so that would be my suggestion: switch them to tirzepatide. And yeah, it probably has to do with those receptors being saturated. Any other questions? That was a great question too. So next week will be, I believe it's going to be a recording. Sherry might decide to jump on live, but it'll be available next Thursday. So one will be, you're welcome. One will be on our strategic weight loss. So this is how to get people from carb burning mode to fat burning mode and very quickly helping them switch their metabolic health. Then we're going to talk about upcoming medications. So the triple action medication, you guys will be able to be in the forefront and learn all about it ahead of everybody else. And then we go back to the live sessions, and Sherry has the first one. This is where she's going to be talking about the specific protocols, the dosing, you know, all of the stuff, and we'll be sharing that with you. Then I'll go into more of the case studies, and I'll be asking you guys, what would you do in this situation? I think by us putting ourselves on the spot and is a good way to learn as well. And then we finish up. I'd have to, now I can't think of what the very last week is, but Sherry's doing that one. All right. Well, I'm glad you found this really helpful. These are those soft skills that it's hard to learn, and you only get better by doing it more and more and having all of these different tools. So, and I learn a lot from patients. They come up with great ideas and I get to share them with others as well. So